Good afternoon, or well, I guess I should just say good day, no matter when or where you're listening. It's afternoon as I'm recording this podcast, and it is a nice sunny day for a change. And so the sun kind of got me in a creative mood, the creative juices flowing, and here we are in front of my microphone chatting with you. So if you follow the little ditties I do on my blog and on Instagram and Facebook, called Daily DS, where it's just a quick little question, and then if you are so inclined, you can join the discussion. But earlier this week, one of the little daily DSs the question was, how did you get your start in DS? And for me, I'll answer the question here just in case those of you listening haven't seen or listened to it. It all started when I had a craving for Taco Bell, of all things. It would have been year 2 of my college experience, and I thought I knew exactly where Taco Bell was. And boy, was I wrong. I got myself lost, and in the process of getting lost, it was the kind of lost where you think you're taking a new path every time you realize you're lost and you're changing your route, and you keep going by the same landmark. It keeps jumping out at you. And so for me, that landmark was an adult bookstore. Now, I guess we need to preface this by how naive I was. When I saw adult bookstore, I thought, oh, it's a bookstore that probably has more fantasy, some erotic books, maybe a large porn magazine area, but it's a bookstore like Barnes & Noble, just minus the children's section, and probably a little heavier on erotic fiction, erotic novels, and, as I said before, the adult magazine category. So I'm lost. I'm looking for Taco Bell, and I keep going by this adult bookstore. And part of my challenge to myself when I went off to school was to interact and to have as many experiences that were out of the norm for me. And by norm, I was raised in a smallish, I guess. For me, it's a small town. For some people, it would be a larger sized town, but it's very conservative. There isn't anything adult orientated here other than plenty of bars, which is also kind of ironic that for a conservative area it's filled with bars. But, there wasn't even a nudie bar or strip club or gentleman's club, however you want to classify those fine establishments. There was not even one of those because it was deemed naughty and against the law, still is. And so I'm lost, and I keep going by this adult bookstore. So finally I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take myself up on the challenge for, outside of the box living. So I pull into the adult bookstore and go in. And remember, I'm thinking this is just a Barnes & Noble with, a hefty selection of adult fiction and adult magazines. The fact that it was in a complex with a gentleman's club, aka strip club, and an adult theater. And by the way, I was thinking adult theater in my mind. I was thinking, they maybe have movies that are rated, what is it now called, NC-17. They probably show those in rated R movies. I didn't realize they were dedicated to showing porn movies. So, yeah, all of this didn't ring any bells or sound any alarms in my head. So I walk into the bookstore, and wow, mind-blowing experience. There was a stripper from the club that was talking to the clerk, dressed as they had just come off stage, and so it was like, oh my God, wow. Haven't seen anything like that before in my life. And it was all adult-orientated toys, magazines, movies, and as I walked around the store, mind completely blown, I came towards the back left of the store where it was all DS and BDSM stuff. And by stuff, I don't mean like toys. There weren't like whips and chains and paraphernalia like that on display. That was all up front by the counter. I'd imagine that was probably a high theft item. But it was tons of magazines, of course, and I'm guessing that the community my college was located in has a lot of men who have fantasies about being submissive to a female dominant, because there was a whole host of magazines along that genre, which didn't trip my trigger, but was fascinating that there was so many, or what, as I would use my favorite college word, plethora of them. And then I found the more, I guess you could say, educational side of the lifestyle section, where there were coffee table books on intricate rope, slave position books, and books that you might not at the time have found in a traditional bookstore, like The Story of O, and the name's escaping me, but I do believe they were the novels by the author that we now know as Anne Rice, but those first, I guess, erotic works were under a different pen name. But it was all sorts of stuff like that, rather than the I don't know the right word, sleazy magazines style. So that was fascinating. And since it was college, and since I had a weird payday of Tuesday, I was not, and this was a Sunday night. Obviously, I was not rolling in the dough, so there were no purchases made. But mental note to come back Tuesday after getting paid to pick up a couple of books, because it just really, like, it called to me. So that's the place, the first exposure that I had to DS that led me down to this rabbit hole. And so when I recorded that daily DS, I got thinking about how other people come to discover, everything lifestyle related, and I started to look more and more into this, and doing some actual little bit of research, which appeals to the nerd in me. So let's take a quick break, do a word from the podcast sponsor, and then we will get back and talk about how people come to the lifestyle. All right, welcome back, and thank you for listening to that message. So the first little bit that was surprising to me was the as I researched this, was the amount of a role that sex or lack of sex applies to people coming to explore DS. As we know, the lifestyle is not about sex. Kinky sex is not the lifestyle. They do pair nicely together, but many people practice the lifestyle without any kinky bow chicka wow wow. And so I was curious, and going through some research that the folks at the Kinsey Institute have done, that people's view on the lifestyle and sex tends to change over time as they experience the lifestyle. When people who are brand new to the lifestyle, pretty much 80% of those who have responded to these various surveys and questionnaires and conversations, however it is that they get their research, about 80% find that sex and kinky sex is part of what excites them about DS. But there's a good chunk there. I mean, if you think about it, one in five people who are coming to explore DS aren't coming with any desire or need for the the kinky delights of the lifestyle. They're coming for other reasons, and then as there are people that have experienced the lifestyle a little bit, have been around it for a year or two, and now 30% of those people are saying it's the sex isn't a driver for them, and then when you talk again to people who have been around the lifestyle even a little bit longer, and now we're to a point where it's just a little bit over half the people are still having that the kinktasticness of sexual fun being a driver for them. So it's interesting how, as people start to experience and learn about the lifestyle, the sexual component of it is less and less important for them, or less of a driver. And another thing that's interesting is when you look at the ages of people coming to DS. Obviously, there is typically a lot more people in their 20s and 30s coming to explore for the first time than, say, people in their 40s and 50s or older. And there's some of the research out there. It's very kind of conflicting on this. Some researchers will say it's because when people are in their 20s and 30s, they're younger, they are more open to exploring and trying new things, where people who are older are set in their ways. And then other people disagree with that, because one of the fascinating things about people, sex, and their fantasies as they age is that as people age, at least the people now, fantasies and experimentation with non-monogamy is actually higher in people who are older, in that 40 to 50 range, than people who are younger. And so it's kind of fascinating that open relationships, poly relationships, even just sexual openness, like a swinging type relationship, are much more, people who are older tend to fantasize about it and also act on those fantasies more than young people, and that these fantasies typically increase as people age. Now, is it because they've been married for 20 years and want to see if the grass is greener on the other side? There's really unfortunately no conclusions as to why this is. But if you've been around the lifestyle for a while, one of the wonderful things is that when I was first exploring the lifestyle and learning what an adult bookstore was, and adult movie theaters and a gentleman's club, all those wonderful new things, it was the lifestyle was different then. The lifestyle was not linked to sex as it is now. It was very interesting because if there were gatherings or play parties, back then they were not sex positive as many are now. And by that I mean, in those days, if you had a BDSM play party where people would engage in lifestyle activities, kind of casually, but in a safer environment, much safer than just meeting up with somebody, kind of more as a stranger. You're in a controlled environment for safety's sake, really, and their lifestyle play would happen, but there would be no sex. It was forbidden to have sexual intercourse, even sexual touching, oral sex, all of that. Nope, 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 nope. And it was almost like it kind of like the don't ask, don't tell policy that the U.S. military has. I'm not sure on the current status of what it is. But it was ridiculous in a way because you could do everything up to sex, but you couldn't have sex. And at the same time, if you looked at the more, I guess we'll say, open lifestyle folks then, like swingers or even folks who were experimenting with poly, it was that was more of a sexual driven lifestyle, and the lifestyle community and the sexually open community, they were kind of they would headbutt, like they didn't coexist well. The swingers thought the lifestyle, the BDSMers were weird and crazy, and the BDSM people didn't think highly of swingers. They thought their relationships were all failures because they were not being monogamous in a way. They were, it was very condescending to those folks. It was condescending on both sides. And it was really weird because they were they were lifestyles that seemingly kind of often would go hand in hand, but yet were bumping heads. And now we're at a place where the non-monogamous, swinging, open sexual lifestyle people and the BDSM people, we really coexist. Swingers groups now have, BDSM, subgroups and components. Those types of clubs often even have, BDSM playrooms, and there are BDSM groups that have munches in, swingers clubs, swingers friendly bars. It's very much a kind of a union that has happened. So it's not surprising then that we're seeing in the lifestyle more and more people who are in their 40s, 50s, and even older discovering and coming to the lifestyle, because the fantasies that all this reporting is showing happens with people in their 40s and 50s. The fantasies are now getting linked to DS because rather than kind of being competing lifestyles, if you will, they're now complementary lifestyles. So we're seeing more and more people of all ages coming to explore the lifestyle rather than just an influx of younger folks coming in. And another thing that all this research has shown, and it's once again not surprising, but it is a myth, that people who practice BDSM or DS, somehow their relationships are broken, or they have flawed relationships because of the lifestyle. And you even find some therapists who feel that way. That's why it's important that if you are going to see a therapist and the lifestyle is something that's a part of you, you should try and find one perhaps that is lifestyle friendly or embraces the lifestyle. And it's really an easy find. I know it sounds probably like a needle in the haystack, but the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom, if you just Google that, it'll bring up their website, and you can find providers that are lifestyle friendly, which is fantastic, and a couple of clicks away, and you can have that. So it's actually, the research is showing that people who practice the lifestyle, no surprise for those of us who have been here for a while, actually have happiness in their relationships. They're happy. They're well-adjusted. They're well-rounded. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm saying wrong in air quotes, for having the lifestyle be a part of their life. Another thing that's fascinating, but once again, no surprise, the study reports that, people who practice the lifestyle, they have better sex. Imagine that. It's funny. They found that people who are involved in the lifestyle 2 to 3 times are having better sex than reporting that their sex life is better than vanilla's by 2 to 3 times. And I think that's just simply a part of being more in touch with who you are as a person, and perhaps not keeping fantasies or kind of, I don't know, things you want to try kind of locked away in a closet. You're just much more open. And another thing that they've found about DS through all this research is, and once again, I don't think any of us listening are surprised, but that consent is such a huge priority and a huge concern in the lifestyle that it really, in a way, while the lifestyle still has its dangers and still has its dangerous people and it has its twat waffles and trolls and bad seeds, just like any group of people, but that overall, because of the focus on consent and ascertaining, getting, keeping, and everything that goes along with consent, is that it breeds to or it leads to a safer environment. And another amazing thing is that women who are involved in the lifestyle, which is probably not surprising, but find that they typically, and this is typically, there are exceptions to every rule, so please don't take this as fact because it definitely isn't, but typically women who practice the lifestyle are able to enjoy orgasm more often or more than their vanilla counterparts and are less likely to have issues with achieving orgasm compared to their vanillas. So, our vanilla peers. So that was kind of an interesting bit on the research. Getting back now into why people come to the lifestyle, what it is that draws them. The biggest thing that is kind of a general overview or a general draw is the power exchange, the either leading or being led by a partner or partners. And with that power exchange, though, that does prioritize the importance of trust. You have to be able to trust the person that you're leading or being led by. And also, DS promotes boundaries with, as far as consent. You have consent to do X, Y, and Z, but you don't have consent for A, B, and C. The boundaries are well defined, where the lifestyle fits and where it doesn't fit in each partnership, which is a draw. And also the heightened consciousness, or I don't know, maybe it's finding that mythical, it's not really mythical because it happens, subspace or dom space, or that altered, I guess, rather than our daily mindset that we're in, but when we have lifestyle play, it is not only physically releasing, it is very much a mental release or mental floss as well. So that's an important draw as people start to explore and they start to learn is all of that. And there is, of course, people who are fascinated by either the giving or receiving of pain. I'm not saying that everybody involved in DS is into receiving or giving pain, because that's obviously not the case. But for those who are, they, as they research and start to learn about DS, it is something that is very intriguing. And one of the respondents made a comment about they never realized that there was good pain versus bad pain. And when they were asked to explain that, they explained that for them, good pain was receiving a spanking, that it not only did things to their mental state, but physically it was very, very rewarding. And they equated bad pain would be like smashing your funny bone, which if you've done that before, it is not. There's nothing funny about it. So it's interesting that people who are newer in exploring that have a draw to the pain side of things come and quickly see that there's good pain, the result of playing with a good and trusted partner, and the bad pain of smashing your elbow. Now I'm gonna kind of try and shift gears and try and get a little more specific on some of the drivers that bring people to lifestyle. Obviously, this isn't going to cover everyone, or not everyone to a T, because we're all different, and the reason why we discover, explore, and learn things, especially with DS, are all different. So as we talk about this, you may think, oh yeah, I really identify with that, and I don't identify with that over there. But you put this and that together, and that really kind of sums me up. So the reason why this is important is oftentimes when you are new in exploring DS, you can feel alone in a way. It can seem so foreign, and you think that you are like a singular grain of sand on some super sandy beach in some beautiful tropical location, that you're alone, and that you're very alone, I guess is the best way to say it. You're very alone in exploring, and that fact is that you're not alone. So hopefully that will come through as we talk through some of the reasons why people choose to explore DS. There are people, and I would put myself in this category, who once they discover that this lifestyle is there, it's like a sense of coming home, that the lifestyle was inside them somehow, even from an early age. And they couldn't explain it. They didn't know what it was called, but it was there and it was inside them. I guess an example of this would be perhaps as a child, you enjoyed being tied up playing, cops and robbers. It would be the childhood kind of game. You enjoyed either being the police officer doing the arresting, and the tying up of the naughty person, or the naughty, the baddie being tied up by the the other person. Those sort of things flow into our adulthood, and then once we discover the lifestyle, it's like, oh my goodness, this all sort of makes sense now. And then there's another group who come to DS later in life, people in their 40s and 50s, and a lot of these people feel like it was something that they were always into, and even as they journeyed into adulthood, they felt it was there, but because vanilla society judges us kinky people, let's face it, they do judge us, and that's why on the internet it's easy to explore the lifestyle and keep your anonymity. And a lot of the people who are coming to the lifestyle a little bit later in life felt that this was part of them, but they denied it and they hid it away because they didn't want anyone to know, because they felt that these desires were wrong, or something was wrong with them for feeling this way. And perhaps it's they have these desires, and then people get married and have kids, and all the expectations that come with being a parent and having a career, and it isn't perhaps until the kids are out of the house and grown and off doing whatever it is that they're going to do, that they allow themselves to kind of come back and start exploring again. So you see a lot of people who are new to DS, but a lot of those people who are older, and I would put myself into the older category now. Unfortunately, I still feel that I'm 25, but I'm not. But a lot of the peer group of dominants and submissives that are, my age or around my age are people who have come to it, excuse me, later in life. And a lot of that was because they put it away on a shelf to focus on life. And now they're at a place where they can invest in themselves and are coming to the lifestyle. And another area that's fairly common, and I think it's a misconception that people have, that especially vanilla people, that if you're involved in DS or BDSM, that somehow you are coming to the lifestyle because of a past trauma that you had, and that the lifestyle is some sort of therapy that you're giving yourself, or you're trying to heal by coming to the lifestyle. And there are people who do come to the lifestyle because of this, and do find that the lifestyle helps deal with their trauma. Some quick examples of this would be somebody who was sexually abused during their childhood, and oftentimes that manifests itself in the lifestyle is that abuse kind of creates a submissive mentality in a way for that person as they process through it. So that creates a draw for the lifestyle. Another area would be goes out to people that enjoy spanking, either on either side. I don't think this necessarily applies to me because I can't, as an adult looking back at my childhood, I can never remember being spanked, but I enjoy spanking. So maybe somehow something in my childhood that I can't remember that's repressed is there. Who knows? Where's Freud when you need him? But there are people that were spanked as children that learn to like it, or in a way craving being spanked, because being spanked showed that they were cared for and that they were loved. So that manifests into coming to the lifestyle because it clicks with that background. And another area where somehow are people that enjoyed, like I said, enjoyed being tied up, like playing cowboy and enjoying being the one tied up or doing the tying, and then as an adult that carries over, and the discovery of rope bondage is very appealing. Another area that's also very common is, as we grow, we date, and we date interesting people. Not always interesting in the best way, but everybody we date is a lesson for us. They either teach us great things, or they teach us things to not repeat in the future. But in the course of getting to know other people and our relationships, we can meet a partner who is into the lifestyle, and we're not. We don't even know the lifestyle exists. And this partner introduces us to the lifestyle, and while maybe that partnership unfortunately doesn't last, the interest in DS is triggered, and they come to the lifestyle that way. And a quick thought here is, one of the more common questions that I hear is, and it all depends, there's no percentage greater than one or the other, but somebody will be dating a partner and they'll say, my partner is amazing, I just wish they would be dominant or they would be submissive. How can I teach them that? And I don't know if there's a way you could teach somebody to, yes, you can teach somebody how to be dominant in the bedroom or dominant during play, or submissive in the bedroom or submissive in play. You can share and act out those fantasies and their roles. But if it's not something that's truly in them, I don't believe it's going to carry over into the daily part of the relationship. It's going to be something that is just going to be done in a playful role play type scenario. So, yes, by all means, if you have an amazing partner and you're curious about DS, introduce a little DS or conversations about it and gauge their interest and see where it goes. You never know. There's a lot of reasons why you click with a partner, and even though maybe it's something you haven't discussed, they haven't discussed, if there's a click, it's very possible that those underlying things that you haven't talked about that you're just exploring, they may feel them as well. Another way that people discover DS and find that it really draws them are people who have to cope with a painful chronic illness. A common example of this would be somebody who maybe has fibromyalgia, and somehow BDSM and the play pain side somehow really helps them to, I guess the word would be cope or handle their illness and their challenge better. It's able to be a release for them, and as they discover DS, they find that it helps them with their daily challenges that their condition presents them. Another area that I really hadn't thought about, and I do want to just mention, if you're on Instagram, this is where like the light bulb went on in my head. There is a I don't know what the proper term is on Instagram, blogger perhaps, but they go by the title of presiding priestess, and they are amazingly open about the past that they've gone through. And their past is one where they were in what you would call a high-demand religion. And even though that as they hit adulthood, they learned that the religion and all its demands and everything else didn't work for them, and obviously stepped way away from that religion, it really helped, in a way, bring them to the lifestyle. And the more I thought about it, high demand religion doesn't necessarily have to be something that's perhaps, just throw the example of very, very evangelical or very, very intense. It all really depends on the person. I mean, even a mainline Protestant background could be considered high demand, depending on perhaps with your childhood how hard it was pushed upon you, or maybe how hard you pushed back, or how deeply you went into the lifestyle or into the religion, and how you put the demands of the religion on yourself. So really, I think any faith can become high demand depending on the person. But it was something that I hadn't really considered, but it was a really eye-opening experience to read their post and to see that this makes sense. So those are pretty much the main ways that people kind of come to the lifestyle. So it does seem to start with some sexual interest, not always, but in the beginning there's a higher percentage of people that come with a sexual overtones to things, and I think, well, I don't think, I know this. You can just and you can bear this out and do this with me, but or do it on your own, I guess, kind of a homework assignment, if you will. Go ahead and click on whatever sites you're on, whether it's Fabulous FetLife, or maybe it's just Instagram and Facebook or Twitter, standard social media. Maybe you're a blogger or you follow blogs. You'll see that people who are newer to DS will typically have more sexualized content than people who are more, shall we say, veterans. And I think that just goes to the like we said in the beginning, where people who are newer are coming to the lifestyle with a higher expectation or interest in the sexual side of things. And then as they grow and mature in the lifestyle, while, sex is great, sex is fun. I'm going to sound like George Michael singing his song Sex, but once again, you don't want to hear me sing. But we slowly learn as we grow in the lifestyle that while sex is amazing, there's so much more to it that is beyond amazing, other than, just the kinky bow chicka wow wow. And while I'm not endorsing these and I'm not saying they're good, in fact, as they portray the lifestyle, they are very wrong. But please remember, these were works of fiction. And we have the whole 50 Shades thing that happened not too long ago. I mean, it is in the history books now, but it wasn't too long ago that these movies were packing theaters around the world. And the beauty of it, not what the content of the movies were, because that was very wrong and very, very wrong on how the lifestyle was presented. And so let's not focus on that, but let's focus on the amazing thing that these movies did. They made it acceptable to be involved in the lifestyle. Here's these Hollywood blockbusters in books that are selling millions and millions and millions of copies, and millions of people are going to see them. And while, yes, there are people that went to see them and that were like, oh, no way, but somehow they were interested. So the whole 50 Shades phenomenon and the erotic written fiction that's out there that has grown in popularity, while all these are fiction, and any work of fiction is definitely going to distort reality, to put it mildly, they are going to bring new faces and bring more people to the lifestyle. And yes, there is education that we as a community need to do when we do run into somebody who is new, but we should be thankful for the success of the 50 Shades series, I guess we could call it, because it has brought more acceptance from the mainstream people. It has brought more people to the lifestyle to look around. It's not nearly as taboo, and in fact, there might even be a little bit of coolness at the nerdy BDSM table now because of 50 Shades. So, yeah, I think the 50 Shades thing we need to look at as an overall positive rather than a negative. I know some people struggle with that, but I think we need to look at that as a positive because it did and does continue to bring more people in and make it more socially acceptable in the vanilla world to be kinky. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So I'm curious, and I would love to hear these if you are willing to share. No matter where you listen to the podcast, you can send feedback, and I would love it if people shared their origin stories. How did you discover kink? What was it? Was when you kind of discovered it, was it a feeling like, oh, this has been with me all the time, I just didn't know what it was? Or was there a specific incident or a specific thing that sort of became your draw? Maybe you came from a high pressure religious background, and somehow as you learn to navigate life without that, you found kink and you found that it fit your life and lifestyle because of this background. So I would love to hear your origin stories if you're willing to share them. I know they're very personal. And so that, once again, the beautiful thing about the internet is that the anonymity is there, so no one will know who you really are. And so on that note, I look forward to chatting with you again next week. And with the March Madness basketball tournament going on, I really hope that if any of you are involved in any pools or gambling on it, that your brackets are not busted. You're still in the running for the big prizes at the end. And don't forget to click the follow button so you never miss an episode. And for next week's podcast, a little teaser, we're going to talk about green flags in the lifestyle. So often we talk about red flags, things to look out for. Be careful of this, be careful of that. But we never talk about green flags. when you see them, this is a great sign. So next week, we're going to talk about green flags and, the glorious green flags of the lifestyle. So don't forget to click that follow button so you don't miss that episode. And let's make the rest of this week amazing. And I look forward to chatting with you next week and dropping the green flag on the lifestyle.